and commits to more hard-locked combat against them. And again, in this hard-locked state, we see a lock that entirely dictates the direction that you're facing.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your host that be doing the most, Mr. Too Good. And yo, right now it is crazy on the internet for Armored Core. New videos have been dropping. New gameplay was just revealed at Summer's Games Fest with select press members actually there, and some actual select YouTube members as well. Famous members of the Armored Core community that got a chance to actually be there and look at some of this in person. Closed doors demo. Nobody had a hands-on from what I understand, but there were some questions answered and a lot more details given as far as what Armored Core 6 is going to be looking like and what it's going to feel like. So we're gonna look at one of these videos here, do a quick reaction video. All I'm going to say is, hey, make sure y'all keep liking, subscribing, following to your boy. We're going to look at VaatiVidya's videos here. He's a really big Armored Core guy. Sorry if I butchered your name, I apologize. But really big Armored Core guy. He did lures videos and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're gonna look at his impressions and what he thought of the game here in just a second. But so far it is going crazy. To my understanding, the internet is definitely split as far as the Armored Core community goes. Some people really love it, some people kind of hate it. You know, there's hearing of this, hearing of that. I've been going in pretty blind as much as I can. Just read a couple articles myself, so we're gonna go ahead and just watch this video without further ado. Let's just look at his video here, and I'll link his video down below as well if I can. There we go. Cool. All right, let's get to it.
As you watch this brand new footage of Armored Core 6, I'm curious, what do you see? Armored Core or Souls?
So automatically, just like I suspected, Armored Core 6 is definitely going to have like that for answer kind of vibe. You're definitely gonna have like
there's a bit of both here, honestly.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. You're definitely gonna have a bit of both going in. You know, if you remember For Answered, any of my For Answered videos, there was the big bombastic boss battles dealing with those arms forts and stuff like that, and even some in 5 where like the last boss and a couple other bosses in Armored Core 5 were kind of like some of those bombastic Souls like bosses that's kind of like, oh man, you're just like the small dude going against this giant machine. So yeah, definitely we're definitely getting some of this, and I'm definitely excited about that.
I recognize the three-dimensional combat of Armored Core.
Yep.
I've seen its familiar mission structure, its atmosphere, and the unrivaled customization potential that the mecha genre lays claim to. But finally, no one can deny that there is a lot of Souls influence in this.
100%.
Lock-on is not traditional Armored Core.
100%.
And the telegraphed attacks would not look out of place in a Souls game. Even the stagger system is basically Sekiro's. Now,
so yeah, apparently there's a stagger system. What that entails is probably going to be just like Sekiro and some other Souls games, where after you do a certain amount of damage, you'll be able to stagger the enemy and do major damage. I'm definitely interested because this definitely looks like the movement is a lot more fluid than it was in the last 2 games, and it looks like it's kind of going definitely back to 4 and 4 Answer, where the movement is a little bit more speedy, but it is interesting. I'm so far I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm gonna say it like that.
There's a lot I could say right now, but I'm honestly really tired of this whole debate, and I'd prefer to move on because there's now
That's fair.
so much more to talk about instead. So Bandai Namco has given me about 4 minutes of gameplay to share here today, but I've actually seen a lot more than this. Press were actually able to see a live demo of basically this entire mission. And you know,
that's what I heard.
Of that live demo, it's that unlike in this gameplay, the HUD, the heads-up display, was completely enabled. I paid a lot of attention to that, and while I don't have any footage of it, this is roughly what it.
So if this is roughly what the HUD looks like, I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with that. It's simple, it's clean, it's easy to look at, and it looks like you'll probably even be able to, you know, potentially just get rid of the HUD altogether if you choose to. I definitely agree. There's been a lot of like, is this Souls? Is this Souls? Is this not Souls? What is happening? And yeah, I'm hoping after looking at all this gameplay images and video that people can finally say it is a FromSoft game, being like, hey, you're still going to have certain elements from the Souls game, certain elements that is going to have to modernize Armored Core. You're going to have to bring Armored Core up to the standards of today's games and everything like that. And this is From Software, guys. Obviously, they're going to sprinkle some of their own elements throughout that they've learned just as far as like general gameplay improvements. So yeah.
It looks like. Feel free to pause here, but I will break down this.
I definitely like this. I definitely like the HUD. I'll say that again. I definitely like the HUD. Your AP,
more in-depth,
all that. Scanning still back.
Now, I don't know why they haven't just shown it. I think it's actually the most genius part about the game that I saw, and I can't wait to explain why. But right now, though, I guess I should just showcase the gameplay that I have been given.
Definitely a little bit emphasis on
huge facility. It's occupied by
melee a little bit.
Addicts, basically. They're people that have been using that substance that's called coral as a drug. But the facility is also occupied by a group of arms dealers who have this RAD logo, and it's their machines that repel your intrusion as well. In the showcase, From Software emphasized the multiple paths that you can take within the mission. You can
I like that.
Those lower paths here off to the left, and they lead to a bridge in the distance, but this player's build at least has very efficient flight capabilities.
I like that.
Use that to take a more direct approach.
I definitely like that.
Obviously, vertical and horizontal flight is a big thing in this game. The energy
it should be
during vertical flight in particular reminded me a lot of the early generations of Armored Core. So you can fly upwards, but it's probably near impossible to achieve sustained vertical flight, which I think is a good thing as it stops you from flying over what is clearly more level design than Armored Core has traditionally had, which is amazing. One thing that does seem different though is it seems like you're way more energy efficient while flying and gliding horizontally in this game.
I like that. I like that a lot. Sorry guys. I like that a lot simply because you should be able to tune your AC to sustain almost constant flight as much as you want, just like you did in 4 Answer. Not so much as you did in 5. 5 I felt like your energy drained a lot more, but this reminds me, this is giving me like real advanced like 4 Answer vibes. It looks clean, the verticality is great. I'm happy right now. I'm happy.
Which is something that seems to be partly enabled by the assault boost, which is basically a dodge boost that can be held for more distance and a continued overboost, so to speak.
So essentially overboosting is almost back.
Let me just pause here for a second. Did you hear that little beep?
That's missile lock on.
We're now in range of those enemies down there. And if you could see the HUD, you would know the lock on has just automatically jumped onto the closest one. Our missiles are now primed, and we're now in what I'm calling a soft lock-on state. In this state, we still have really free, unrestrained, unguided movement of our mech, and it seems the lock-on can be freely moved between enemies. This should be more familiar to Armored Core fans because it's closer to the way that lock-on has traditionally worked in Armored Core. where you're responsible for keeping enemies within your sights in order to shoot at them, and the lock-on kind of does its own thing. So if we fire our missiles now, which they do, you can see one missile fly off to each nearby enemy, stunning them and giving us an opening to dash in and take them out one by one instead. Except at some point, the player locked on manually, and now we've transitioned into what I'm going to call a hard locked on state.
Interesting.
Hard lock finally falls off.
So it sounds like you'll have like a at a certain range, everything will be a soft lock on, and then you will have the option to switch to a manual lock on, which I'm totally fine with. I'm totally fine with that, because that's gonna, you know, like in Elden Ring in the other Souls game, like that hard lock on where I can constantly just keep my eye on you and I can just move around how I need to, and disengage that as necessary is what's key.
But wait, there's more enemies up top, so the player goes up and commits to more hard locked combat against them. And again, in this hard locked state, we see a lock that entirely dictates the direction you're facing.
What I'm trying to figure out, so is there like a dedicated melee button now, or what? Because we've seen that kick a couple times now, and I'm trying to figure out, is there a dedicated like kick button or melee button or something like that? Because it seems constant, like I shoot from afar, and I kind of talked about this in my previous video, kind of what we were understanding with all the details that were given to us. But I shoot from afar, do the damage, and I fly in and get my melee attacks on, and then I kind of back out and then go back to guns and stuff like that. So I'm really curious.
And that is not how lock-on has traditionally worked in Armored Core. In fact, the absence of hard lock-on is, I think, actually a big part of what contributed to Armored Core's traditional identity. So instead, you'll recognize this lock-on state from Souls. But before all the Armored Core,
I'm okay with it.
Upset by this,
I'm okay with it.
So, remember, the genius kind of is that the soft lock-on state, the traditional lock-on state, still seems to exist. And I think playing with that lock-on state will be viable, and it will give you benefits, although you're probably missing out by not hard locking on sometimes and allowing the player and their camera to be very bound to a single enemy and have your movement strafe around them perfectly instead.
I guarantee you, when it comes to online play, it will probably be hard lock on. If you're not hard lock on, I you know, you can quote me on this, you can clip this or whatever you want to say. I guarantee if you're not hard lock on online play, you're gonna get demolished. You're gonna get demolished. I almost guarantee it, because just like the Elden Ring arena, you're hard lock on people just because you want to focus on that dude. Gives you the freedom of movement to do what you want without having to worry too much of like, oh, am I constantly move my screen to be in the view of this guy like you did in previous Armored Core games. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why people would be upset, because, oh no, I like soft lock on, it made the grates from the fakes and all that stuff. But hey, like I said, we got to evolve, guys. We got to evolve.
What's more, in this hard lock-on state, notice how all 4 missiles go to their single target here instead, as opposed to in the soft lock-on state where those missiles were spread evenly around the area to each enemy.
So yeah, definitely giving you the ability to switch.
And speaking of strategy, this player's combat strategy seems to be to use their machine gun to stagger these smaller enemies. Enemy stagger bars are seen here, and they build up visually just like they do in Sekiro, and you can see the moment that stagger kicks in here. In this staggered state, they've said that enemies take a ton more damage, and that makes it the perfect time to hit them with all your burst damage, which this player does with their barrage of 4 missiles. Or another thing you can do while the enemy is staggered is this. You can yeet enemies so far, though I feel like this enemy only flew so far because it was already staggered, though. In any other situation, the kick attack probably just builds up their stagger meter.
Yeah.
Next clip. The gate was a major waypoint in the showcase, and it seemed to function a lot like a fog gate would in Souls, except when I watched, the player actually took about 10 seconds to hack open this gate. They were vulnerable the entire time they were doing that, and they even got ambushed during that process, so
oh,
stop you from progressing too far. In Souls, you can just like run past everything, so
yeah,
you're doing that here.
okay.
But here,
I like that.
tight corridor.
I do like that.
These in Armored Core traditionally force you to fight quite differently than you would have out in the open. Often in past Armored Core games, your missiles would become useless inside, especially if they're the type that fire upwards or outwards, and your long-range weaponry might not be as good either. So that's why it's a good idea to have some close-range parts to help you out in tight spaces.
Hence,
shields now,
yep,
or maybe melee blades as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The melee blade, right there.
Speaking of shields, they've actually added something that I've always wanted them to add in Souls, and that's a timed block system. So what we know from interviews is that shields now have this brief moment when you deploy them where their defense is way stronger. It happens here. See that pulse when they pull it
Okay.
out? That should be a moment of optimal block, and that's obviously an incentive to perfectly time your blocks against strong attacks rather than just keeping your shield active all the time. Next, melee.
Interesting.
Clearly do multiple strikes with a lot of these, and
Two.
these preset animations.
One, two.
I think that the blades might be exclusive
Three.
to the left side, like they are in many previous Armored Core games, rather than being able to dual wield them. Although I could definitely be wrong on that.
I would imagine you could probably dual wield if you really wanted to.
Revealed and can be locked onto through walls. I love this. Being able to peek ahead and think about your strategy is so much better than always being forced to figure things out on the fly.
I do like the scan system better.
Based on your build, followed by execution of that plan with your
this better scan system,
and that is peak Armored Core to me. Speaking of customization though, next let's talk about build assembly. Garage, which is another huge design pillar of Armored Core. So here we thankfully get an overview of all of the part categories in Armored Core 6. Here are your 4 weapon slots, your
okay, cool. So yeah, we have 4 weapon slots, frame slots, boosters, and energy. And then what's the expansion?
Booster, your FCS lock-on part,
yep,
generator, and an expansion slot. This is fewer categories than most Armored Core fans will be used to. Inside parts, hanger weapons, radiators, those are all missing here. That said, the parts that we do see previewed here do have some great depth to them, so I think that might make up for having fewer categories. For example, your generator, which governs your energy, now has cooling built into it, rather than radiators being a separate part.
Makes sense.
Certain weapons, like this laser dagger, can perform a charge attack if held, which is a depth to them.
Oh!
We also see certain ranged weapons that have this charging property.
Yes.
And then there's missiles, which have unique attack characteristics, as they always have, but their descriptions here are more detailed than ever. Some are capable of multi-lock, which is when missiles fire at multiple targets, which I showed off earlier. Some missiles are better for AoE, creating a damage
3-cell plasma missile launcher.
Staggering enemies like these, which contribute
lightweight builds, capable multi-lock force.
Strain. And some missiles will just be great for taking out airborne enemies, like these, which are deliberately slowed.
Enable heavy pressure tactics.
During lengthy
enabling
heavy pressure tactics. All these build considerations are such a fun, amazing part of Armored
That's real interesting.
Wait for people to discover. And if you're a new player, I think a lot of the time you will be able to get by simply reading these written descriptions. But the real endgame in Armored Core is learning to understand stats and
that's true
of each part seen down here. Though, if you think these stats are overwhelming, I've got news for you. So, this is probably the simplified version. It reminds me a lot of Armored Core 4, where you were shown the most important stats on parts, but then you could toggle the display to reveal this. Yeah, so stats can get pretty intense.
Yeah.
And while having a simplified view and
So if you look back at some of my other Armored Core 4 answer videos, 4 answer, you'll see exactly I do this exact thing. I'm looking at the very detailed stats because I'm trying to accomplish certain things and get past certain ACs in that game that were actually kind of difficult. I imagine there's probably going to be a more detailed screen that's going to be available because it has been in almost every Armored Core game. So I would imagine, but we'll see what he says here. This is the key. This is where you start min-maxing your AC to like the T, where you have the right amount of energy, the right weapons on board, the right FCS, the right boosters, all that to make your ultimate AC.
Accessible icons is obviously the more modern approach. I really hope that they don't shy away from these overwhelming stat screens because they are such a hallmark of the series.
Facts.
In the showcase, the player actually accessed this garage mid-mission after being destroyed by this quad-legged enemy. Their mid-range biped build was having a lot of trouble dealing any kind of damage to this enemy at range, so they wanted to change their build to an agile close-range one instead. And they did it all manually, and it took less than a minute, and it was so convenient. Instead of having to do the entire mission again, they simply died, they loaded up the garage from the menu, they tweaked their build, and then they returned to the checkpoint that they had unlocked.
I guarantee somebody's
with a different build completely.
I guarantee somebody's gonna be like, that's not what's supposed to happen. It doesn't matter, guys. This is like just like how Elden Ring had the States of Marika, sorry, and other various checkpoints where you fight a boss and you would die and then you would go right back to that quick checkpoint so you can get right back into the action. That's what they're trying to facilitate here. They want you to get right back into the action. They want you to live, die, and repeat, right? Hey, if I go back in and do this and it doesn't work, if I switch to this agile build and it doesn't work, okay, cool. Let me switch. Let me find a good in between from what I had before to what I have now to get past this boss. They're trying to keep you in action to keep those oh shit moments going instead of you going all the way back and creating that fatigue where now you're not playing their game as much. That's all it is. It's a simple new age gameplay loop that has been proven successful. So I love it because didn't five and I think VaatiVidya also had this similar thing where you can sort it again, and if you want to change something on your mech, you could do it like halfway through the mission and stuff like that. So I'm okay.
But as to the fight itself, there's actually so much to break down in this fight, but the main thing I really want to talk about happens here, where they stagger the enemy.
Yeah,
whereas in
big boy damage.
This would enable an execution on stagger. In Armored Core 6, it's up to you to fully deliver that execution. The enemy is now taking extra damage. So
yep.
If you have burst attacks, now's the time.
Yeah, this is the time you unleash everything.
Prolong this staggered state with certain attacks, keeping them stun locked with the right combo potentially, which might give a really high skill ceiling to this.
Woo! With that being said, there's your answer. If anybody has to say like, oh, this game is going to be too easy or whatever the case is, there's the skill, just like he talked about, the skill ceiling is going to be like, is there a combo for me to unlock a continuous, maybe like three combo stun lock on a person? Because single player is going to be good, but it's going to really come down to multiplayer and how multiplayer is going to function, because that's going to be the ultimate longevity of the game, just like how it was in previous Armored Core games. You have the single player is always good, always chef's kiss, right? But the multiplayer is where people get invested and they want to do more and try these different tactics and say, oh, my AC is one of the best, my team is the best, my squad, whatever is the best. We have a whole Gundam assortium basically where we can just dunk on everybody, and that skill that what he's talking about right there is what's going to be able to like, okay, well, that may be true, but my guy can take on 3 of you guys because I can stun lock you, go over stun lock your buddy, and just fight your other buddy real quick, and then live, die, and repeat, or whatever the case is. Sorry, I'm getting excited, guys. I'm getting excited.
If you listen carefully here, you can hear a narrator say, "All right, tourist, that's enough. That's because the enemy leader of this facility has been shit-talking you this entire time. The dialogue that I heard was witty and well delivered, and that is a very welcome change from past Armored Core games. There was also some banter between this narrator and your own female operator, who is there to support you through your missions and warn you about what's ahead. And a main boss is ahead. But before this, in the demo, the player actually called a resupply drone, replenishing their health, their repair kits, and their ammo, and then it was time to fight this thing. A boss that has its own health and stagger meter that appears at the top of the screen. Its attacks are extremely well animated and telegraphed. And it has a ton of area denial and AoE, and it's just so well animated, and it looks like such a great fight. It also has 2 lock-on points, a weak spot at the front, and a shoot at the top. Which I guess flying builds might be able to take more advantage of.
I can see that.
A low tank build would deal with something like this, though. It seems like it would be hard to get distance and dodge with a tank, hey? Anyway, as promised, let me recreate the heads-up display in more detail, starting with the most important things. First up is your AP, your armor points, or your health, basically, which was displayed numerically and with a slider around here. When the player took damage, this number and the slider...
Let me move this out the way. There we go.
Deplete, and the screen would also distort a little bit, especially at the edges, which you can kind of see here.
Big boy damage.
Gauge seen around here.
Means you took a bunch of damage.
Things like flight, quick boosting, and I think melee as well. Of course, in Armored Core, how big this bar is determined by the capacity of your generator part. And how fast it depletes and recovers is determined by the energy output of that generator and the cumulative energy drain of all of your parts. Of course, the efficiency of your boosters will probably also play a part. Above it was a stagger bar. It was empty by default, but would fill up with orange from the center, just like this.
So yeah, some boosters have some boosters are preferred for flight, some boosters are going to be preferred for just side boosting, quick boosting, or whatever the boost may be called. And I think some boosters is just going to be preferred for ground-based guys.
Whenever you took damage, and then it would deplete if you didn't take damage for a few seconds. The same goes for enemies. If you get staggered though, I think you just sort of pause for a couple of seconds, and previous interviews seem to suggest that you'll start falling if you're in the air as well. Next, there was like a box here for the expansion slot. So extensions are a category of parts that have traditionally allowed you to do unique things like jam enemy radar, or shoot down enemy missiles automatically. Sometimes these extensions were activated manually, sometimes they're passive, and they're like my favorite part category in Armored Core because they give a ton of character to your build. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the demo had no expansion part equipped, so this box was empty. Next to it were 2 bars. One was a visual indicator for your repair kits, of which the player had 3. Armored Core has never had an Estus Flask equivalent before, but it does now. These can be activated instantly to heal the player.
So that's going to be the only very interesting thing is now you're having like you said, you're having your Estus Flask that's going to heal you instantly. I'm very curious to see if there's going to be a blanket like, oh, they always heal you to 100%, or are they going to heal you to like 50% after you have so much AP, or whatever the case may be, just like in previous, Souls-like games. So that's a very Souls-like element. I hate to say it, guys, that's a very Souls-like element. That's been in almost every Souls game except for Armored Core, obviously. So now they're putting it in there, which is probably going to indicate that the levels are going to be probably a little bit bigger than we're used to, and that it's probably going to be a little bit more intense than I think. This is probably the part where it's like, okay, we're welcoming some of the newcomers in and giving you a chance to get acclimated to the game and stuff like that. It's very interesting.
And it seems they can be replenished at supply stations, which can be called in certain missions, apparently. Underneath repair was a bar that said scan, When activated to scan surroundings for enemies, this bar would take a little while to regenerate and then it could just be used again. It wasn't long though, like 10 seconds between each scan maybe.
Okay.
On the bottom right were 4 familiar weapon slots. They showed your total ammo and your remaining magazine ammo for your left arm, left back, and right back weapons, respectively. This character has missiles on their right back, a machine gun on their right arm, a shield on its left back, and a blade on its left arm. Now, a recent interview stated that all 4 weapons are bound by default to all 4 controller triggers. All of your shots can be fired at once, which
that's good.
How it's worked in
that's going to be.
That sounds kind of insane, honestly. And pretend you're holding a controller. I cannot fathom for the life of me how you're supposed to fire all 4 weapons with your pointer and middle finger, and then doesn't that just leave your thumbs free for assault boosting and boosting,
like
acting and changing?
This is where the
just your thumb.
This is where the meme of the armor core, handling and all that comes into play right now. This is where I guarantee you will see somebody do this, trying to activate everything at once. And that's probably going to be where the skill ceiling is as well, where I'm calling it now. We're going to see a build that has nothing but missiles. Nothing but missiles. It's going to be hand missiles and back missiles. And somebody's just going to be there just hitting every trigger, just hitting everything, right? Just unleashing barrage and barrage and barrage and barrage of missiles. I guarantee we'll see it. But yeah, that is insane. That is genuinely insane. I don't know how effective that's going to be or how that's actually going to work in real life. We'll see. But I'll say it like this: if y'all don't got a for those on PC or Xbox, you ain't got Elite Series 2 controller with the back pedals, y'all might be at a disadvantage. Yikes.
Thumbs for all those actions seems very difficult, so I'm extremely keen to get a hold of a demo and see what the deal is here. There was a vertical speed gauge on the left, there was what looked like an altitude gauge on the right, there was even a compass at the bottom that was actually pretty cool because it had red dots for all of the enemies around you, which I assume would actually be pretty useful when helping to locate the enemies that are just outside your field of view. Then the mission objective was written top left, a waypoint marker was on screen for that objective, and killed enemy credit rewards would pop up on the bottom right. Of course, as mentioned earlier, the center of the screen features your fire control system, your lock-on, essentially.
Yep.
It's circular like it was in Armored Core 5, and while you're in active combat even, it stays in the center of your screen, and it has these sliders that help you keep track of your remaining magazine capacity as you fire your left and right arm and back weapons, which I'm a huge fan of. So the UI is nice, it's super clean and it displays a ton of information, but it's this lock-on behavior that I think is the most fascinating thing about Armored Core 6 so far, and this is the part of the UI that I kind of love the most. So again, when you get in range of an enemy, this lock-on element jumps over to them, while the lock-on display itself starts to display that enemy's health and stagger meter at the top, in addition to your ammo in the bottom left and right. Inside the lock-on though, there's this little number which dictates how many of your missiles will go to this enemy should you.
That's cool. I like that. I do like that.
Will be split between nearby enemies, and if you're hard locked on, all of your missiles will go towards them. Additionally, the lock-on actually updates with an enemy's distance from you, which is extremely important information because optimal weapon range is a really big thing in Armored Core, and it also shows little damage numbers which pop up as you pop off, and that's really important to give you visual feedback on the effectiveness of your range or the effectiveness of your weapon type. You want to know if you're dealing damage, and I always loved this feature when it was added in Armored Core 4, so I'm very glad to see that return. I even noticed some little enemy status words pop up around the lockbox.
What I also imagine is, guys, that you'll probably be able to customize this HUD to a certain degree as far as like, hey, I want I imagine, don't quote me on this, I could be very wrong, but they'll probably give you the option or the ability to like do no HUD or minimal HUD or whatever the case is, just for, you know, the purest sake.
Like
I imagine.
Unaware would pop up if the enemy didn't know you were stealthed, and ACS load limit, I think, popped up if you staggered them. So this lock-on is doing a lot of heavy lifting in Armored Core 6, and I love it. I'm glad they've baked so much information into this UI, because that is such a huge part of what Armored Core is all about, and what their design team deserves props for is the fact that they've baked all this information in while keeping everything looking sleek and unobtrusive. It's very clever design, and I hope they show off the HUD soon, because I'm probably just butchering it in Photoshop now. I have so much more to say about this demo, but it should probably wait for when we get new footage, or for if I get my hands on it, if I'm lucky. In the meantime, if you're curious about Armored Core, then please check out my recent video where I show off every single old Armored Core game. And I think that video will just always stand as a way for you guys to learn a ton.
My man went into it.
Don't have the time to play for yourself, and I had an amazing time playing all of the old games.
I feel that.
But until next time, thank you for watching. I also want to say special thanks to Con from Bandai Australia for getting up at midnight to pass me this footage. That was so appreciated. And
awesome. Yeah, yeah, just like him, I have also went through Armored Core 4 Answer and Armored Core 5, and you can check out those videos. Armored Core 5 video should be uploading just shortly, and all my 4 Answer journey has been on there as well, and then I'm going to have Verdict Day coming up just shortly as well. So yeah, a lot of information that just got passed, a lot of information, good breakdown. I love the video, man. Keep them up. I'm actually, you know, I thought I was subscribed. All right, we'll hit the, I think I'm subscribed on my other channel. That's what it is. Yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna link his video down below so you can check it out as well. There's a million other videos out there as well. I know Cowboy did a video. Oh yeah, there it is right there. So a lot of other videos out there. No matter what, I'll say this as well, like, hey, if you don't like it, that's totally fine. You can wait until everybody else is playing the game, or, you know, if you do like it, even better. I know, like I said before, I'm always all in, guys. Armored Core, I'm all in. I'm down for change. I like change. Sometimes, you know, we hate it or whatever, but I like the changes I see right now. The only thing that leaves me a little bit question is the repair kits, but you know, we'll get past that. I'm pretty sure that's going to be minor compared to whatever else is going on in the game here. But yeah, the game comes out August 25th, so I'm excited. Like I said, I got the premium edition, not even the collector's edition. I got the premium edition. So yeah, I dropped a quick buck on that. Yikes. So I hope this game pans out. Cough, cough, cough. But yeah, guys, go ahead and go back to my channel here. Make sure you guys check out all my other videos on here. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are amazing. Keep hitting the buttons, keep liking, subscribing, commenting, all the above. Get your boy out there. We're trying to get big too. You know what I'm saying? Armored Core is my jam. So as soon as they said Armored Core was coming back, as I mentioned before, I'm all in, doing nothing but Armored Core retrospectives right now. So yeah, but cool. Without further ado, guys, I'm your host that be doing the most, Mr. Too Good, and we'll catch you next time. Y'all be safe. Y'all be easy. Peace.